the Prime Minister directed that our people, that has been always the thing, that our people have to be brought safe from Wuhan to India. Now, how to execute that? You're talking of a virus which people may be harboring or not harboring. You bring them, how do you bring them in an aircraft? Will they be infecting the others who go in that aircraft? How will they be handled? It's a long flight from Wuhan to India. If you if you Google and look at the flights from Wuhan to India, there's no flight which comes without a stop. And it takes, the shortest is 12 hours. So how do you get people from Wuhan to India? In times of crisis, we all turn to armed forces. That's our role. Here also armed forces were called in. So what was talked about? It was decided that the armed forces will pitch in their effort and get these people from Wuhan. So what were we looking at that time? We said, okay, we'll send our C-130. China said, no military aircraft from India will touch Chinese soil. So it was decided it will be 707. We talk with, civilian aircraft can only go. So we said, okay, civilian aircraft would go, but we'll send our personnel, defense personnel, doctors, nursing officers, and paramedicals. They said they may come, but they will not touch the Chinese soil. Your defense personnel will not land on Chinese soil. They will remain inside the aircraft. So we said, okay, we did that. And we also took 4 or 5 civilian doctors from Ram Manohar Lohia, and our team went. Now the complexity of the situation was how to get these people, how to make these people sit. Now it's very simple, we all talk of masks, the COVID precautions. At that time, whether these people should be put in PPE kit with a mask and cap, and what about the use of lavatories, what about asking them to eat, and how do our workers protect themselves? So all these were handled in a manner as was the best at that time, and these people were brought here. On 1st February, the first flight with 324 people, 2 were left behind because they had frank symptoms at that time. The Chinese authority did not allow them to board because they had fever and cough at that time. And these 324 people came to India. Now they have come to India, where to keep them? So armed forces, just before me, Mr. San also talked of Shavla. There was a place called Shavla where BSF had a camp later. Armed forces had to make a place where these people had to be housed. So in Manesar, armed forces opened what is called quarantine camp. The terms quarantine, isolation were being heard first time in public now. Before that, it was only when the people had gone to moon and those cosmonauts came back, we heard that they were quarantined for 14 days before some funny disease they might carry from moon, and that should not happen. So now these people came back. What should be now everybody has just now, somebody brought out that infodemic has happened. We all know everything about COVID, precautions, preventions, management, the future, all that. But at that time, nothing was known. We did not know how this virus gets transmitted, how long does it take, how to how to identify the people. You just knew fever and symptoms are there, fine. What about other people? What to do about them if they have been in that area? So first time we decided that there will be people who are suspect, who had fever, who had frank symptoms, they would be kept separately. People who had been any kind of contact, they had gone to that famous animal market at Wuhan, or they had come in contact with somebody who was a positive case in the sense he had fever, etc. They will be called as high-risk contacts, and they would be kept separately. And the third group was no contact. Suspects, high-risk contact, no contact. So shall we allow these no contacts to go home? No. At that time, we could not take chance. A virus, this country was still, as far as COVID was concerned, we were still naive. We had not been exposed to it. So we had to ensure that we do not get inadvertently exposed to it. Then what? So what do we do? So we said these contacts also will be kept for 14 days separately, and if they do not develop any symptoms, they'll be sent to their homes, and surveillance will continue. So this is how the first quarantine camp was established by Indian Armed Forces for the country. And not only first, we established 11 quarantine camps after that. So that's what we did, which later came to be known as Operation Vande Bharat. And this, that's where everybody in country rises to the occasion, but there has to be a central political will. You must remember that always, that has to be a driving force, which was present. And because of that, then it's not only Wuhan. We made 2 trips from Wuhan that time, first on 1st February and then 3rd February, another trip was 3rd, 4th February. And then from Kuwait, if you remember, Diamond Princess was there in Japan. We were the only ones who brought our people back from there. In Diamond Princess, people were dying in the ship itself. Closed compartment, everybody infecting each other. We got those people back. From Italy, where people were dying, again we brought our people back. In prisons in Kuwait, in Iran, the people who had gone, were laborers and those who didn't have proper cards, etc., they had been in prison there. In prison, things were going bad because of COVID. They let these people out. We went there. We went there and got these people from there and put them in quarantine camps here. And that's how Indian Armed Forces started the movement of, getting our people back and taking care of them in that era of COVID. Once that had happened, after that it was a story which is very smooth, which is common to all of us. The lockdown came, the first wave was happening, and then second wave, and we built up our things. All that happened in a smooth manner. I mean, there's nothing much to talk about that, except saying that armed forces contributed to the national effort in terms of taking care of the patients, in terms of ramping up the facilities, diagnostic facilities, treatment facilities. We opened what was then called the hospitals. There are hospitals which are opened by, taken care of. I just run through these slides. These are the quarantine camps which we had established. Procurement of, all kinds of things. And the number of beds in the armed forces hospitals went up from oxygenated beds to 10,000 plus. And we not only treated our own people, we also treated the civilians there. Now, what was unique about armed forces at that time? We know something called force preservation. Just as BSF, Mr. Asthana just talked about the border protection. If you remember, 14 June was when Galwan happened. Same time, we did not only get COVID virus, we got very, things which were much more deadly at that time. By the way, the man who was there, General Manin sitting here, 14 Corps, when Galwan had happened after that, he was the, you all must cheer him up, he is sitting here, and all the negotiations which happened with Chinese, it was General Manin who was there. So after that, what the armed forces had to do? We had to see that our force preservation had to happen. And they remained, we had to get all these people to Galwan and the northern border to take care that they remained there fit. And they did not get COVID, and there was no question. And the same protocols for isolation, quarantine had to happen at the same time. At the same time, the armed forces doctors, they had to take care of them, they had to take care of patients, and they had to ensure that they also remain preserved so that they can continue to contribute to effort. So when this happens, things become challenging, and that's where, the doctors rose to the occasion, the armed forces personnel rose to the occasion, and all that, after that what has happened is again a history, the way we again rose as a nation. We were there, you all were there, and that's why the things happened as they have happened. This is Lucknow, the civil hospitals, the hospital set up in civil for taking care of civilian patients by armed forces doctors and nursing officers and the paramedicals. This is Patna. Apart from this, COVID did a beautiful thing. We need not talk to each other physically. We would go on online exchanges. And these online exchanges could happen with various countries, sharing of best practices, technology sharing, knowledge sharing. All this happened in a beautiful manner. That kept on happening. And that helped us, that helped these countries. And we, the armed forces, not only did this, we sent our teams. What you are seeing here is, our teams went to Maldives, Comoros Island, Kuwait. So many countries abroad, our teams went to help them in COVID management over there. In addition, the wherever a UN mission was there, we are part of UN peacekeeping force in Sudan, in Congo, in Lebanon. All over, again, our teams are reinforced there to see that the COVID management happens in those countries beautifully. I'm not going to talk of other, based on the Prime Minister's, Vasudhaiva Kutumbukum, the way we went all over supplying our medicines, the way we went all over giving the vaccines. That is a great thing by itself. That's another chapter of the history which has added to the, prestige and standing of India in the international standing, but that also happened at the same time. A lot of innovations happened. We all did innovations to ensure that if a patient is infected, doctor doesn't get infected from it. Or if a patient is transported in air transport, it's a very big thing. You're carrying a COVID patient in aircraft. How do you ensure that the patient doesn't infect the caretakers around? So various mechanisms are involved so that the patient is carried safely without any exposure of the doctors or the health workers who are taking care of the patients. Vaccination. Again, in armed forces, second wave was deadly all over, but armed forces were protected. And why were they protected? We ensured that by June, the second wave came back. I mean, it really hit the country in March it started, April, May of 21. By this time, we had ensured that all the medical workers had got 2 doses of the vaccine. And all our frontline workers, all armed forces personnel, there were 10 lakh people who were involved in taking care of the country's borders at that time, that all of them have got this vaccine by somewhere May, June, it had been completed for everybody. Once that had been done, they're all protected, and the number of deaths which in armed forces, the numbers at that time were 400 total, later it came to 500 something, all over the armed forces as the numbers stand today. So that is what helped us to maintain our force preservation. For it's very important that our soldiers remain healthy, morbidity-free, to take care of the functions, to take care of the trust that the nation has put into him. And these vaccinations, General Menon was in Ladakh, at Leh. It is there we had to transport it. All corners of the country, the vaccine was transported. It was sent everywhere, the way it had to be transported. You have to maintain the cold chain. Everything has to be done properly, and it has to be entered. The COVID app, everything was taken care of by the armed forces, and we ensured that it happened right till the soldier won't come back for taking the vaccine. It has to be given him right there where he's standing taking care of the nation. A lot of publications. Armed forces published the biggest study on the efficacy of the vaccine which was manufactured at Serum Institute of India in Pune. So the efficacy of that vaccine was proved unequivocally that how it protects the people against mortality once the COVID vaccine has been given to them. What is important and what happened at that time? It's not only, the research happened, the vaccine was developed, infrastructure was created to ensure that the vaccine develops, and then the supply chain was managed to ensure the logistics were managed that the vaccine is transported all over. So when we are going to plan our COVID management, these 3 things are taken care of. When we talk of future perspective, global perspective, we have to talk of infrastructure development in terms of technology, in terms of the research, in terms of logistics, and all, as you're talking, the whole country has to come together as a whole. Every time we talk of integration, that is what is important. We rise as a whole, and not only us, the world has to rise as a whole. If it really wants to save itself, that's what we have to understand. There are so many ambassadors of Your Excellencies of various countries sitting. You have to understand that it is not, protecting myself and wait till fire comes to me. We all have to ensure that we help each other, knowledge exchange, research exchange, best practices exchange. You must keep on doing this. Today you're talking of One Health. One Health is a concept we are talking of today. One Health is that we move into the animals territory, we are going to get animals diseases. Nipah virus, Zika virus, COVID, and it will continue. It will not stop here. We have to understand One Health concept, which is the World Health Day talking about, that we have to be one in terms of animals, humans, and the ecosystem. It has to stay in an equilibrium where we allow each other to thrive and not prey upon each other. Even human beings prey upon each other, countries preying upon each other, not only the humans and animals preying upon each other. We must make a healthy ecosystem, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, only then we have the hope that human race will survive. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Good evening, everyone. I am Pankaj Sharma, CEO of Religare Finvest Limited. It is my honor and proud privilege to introduce our next eminent speaker, Dr. Charan Singh, who is an expert in banking, monetary policy, international trade, and economic reforms. He is currently the non-executive chairman of Punjab and Sindh Bank. He was full-time visiting faculty at the IIM Bangalore. At Harvard University and Stanford University, he was a visiting scholar. Earlier, he was a senior economist at IMF and research director at the RBI. I can go on as the list is long. But in the interest of time, I would not like to come between him and the august gathering here, and hence invite him over for his enlightening talk now. Presenting Dr. Charan Singh.
Good evening. It's an honor and privilege to be speaking in front of Dr. Murli Manohar Joshi. I want to thank Dr. Rashmi Saluja for giving me this opportunity. On this issue of COVID and post-COVID, I think the role of India and public authorities in India has yet not been sufficiently highlighted. I must start the story from Harvard and Stanford, where I was studying, and I was watching how India's medical system is not sufficiently highlighted. Rather, the gaps are picked up and lots of financing sought at these two places. Once I was at IIM Bangalore, I started interacting with Dr. Narendra, who's a former scientist at NASA and director of Swami Vivekananda University, S. Vyasa University. And I realized that the Indian Ayurvedic system, which Dr. Joshi spoke so beautifully and so correctly, was so strong. It builds you in totality, takes care of your health, and creates immunity which you can face anytime. So we did research at IIM Bangalore, published it, and we also said that the insurance companies should take care not of health, but of wellness. When a person is healthy, and you need a healthy person in a country if you want economic growth to happen, productivity to happen, if a person is healthy, you should be able to take care through vouchers his health by sending him to gym, sports, and other activities where he can stay stronger, both mentally and physically. Moving forward, I didn't realize, but it would happen to me despite all this background. I landed up in the second phase in a government hospital in Greater Noida. And I must tell you, I was stunned from the newspapers that I was reading and the TV that we were watching, that nothing is happening, things are bad. But inside the hospital, I started a Twitter series where I kept telling, look, inside the hospital, these nurses, staff is helpful, kind, approachable. And as Dr. Joshi was talking about Bose, the scientist who was in Calcutta speaking to plants, and they grow. Just imagine a COVID patient, nobody wants to be near you, but the nursing staff and everybody is talking to you. It was impressed how things were being handled inside the ward. Again, the newspapers kept saying foreign aid is getting squandered away, it's not reaching, but it was reaching. Everything was reaching inside. I think that is something which we need to strengthen and share with the world how COVID was helpful in bringing people together. I would also like to mention as an economist 3 quick things. One is, the Prime Minister of the country made an announcement that please take care of each other as a family, make sure there are no layoffs. And that's exactly what happened. Unlike the Western countries, where layoffs were quick and unemployment allowances shot through the sky, in India, that was not the case. People took care of each other, employees. The fiscal authority, again, was very careful. What did the fiscal authority do? They looked at the issues throughout the phases, realized that it is something like the 1918 pandemic. It can last 2 to 3 years, not to burn their gunpowder immediately. In a very systematic manner, they kept releasing resources and helping industry as well as trade. Please remember, during these difficult times, banking and financial institutions were open. By virtue of ensuring that the banking and financial institutions are open, sort of oxygen was provided to the business world in a very important way. Business sustained. It is amazing. No study has been done on India on the fiscal policies so far, except one done at the IMF, which reassured that the Prime Minister's schemes of providing free food led to holding poverty levels and not deteriorated. The second thing is financial stability. The banking and financial institutions continue to work, but as a regulator and supervisor, the Reserve Bank continued to announce measures which would strengthen them. It's for all to see. In post-COVID period, while the Silicon Valley Bank, the Signature Bank, Credit Suisse, they are in stress, not a single one in India. When it comes to the fiscal deficit and debt, all within the limits. None exceeded the limits. So therefore, if you finally look at the monetary policy, the way we handle the interest rates and the way the Reserve Bank played its role in accommodating non-performing assets, recognition of stressed assets or Basel norms, the economy is in good shape. So I want to conclude, knowing very well that we are running a little late, I want to conclude that these studies on India handling the pandemic from the macroeconomic angle have yet not been documented. But once they're documented, I think there are lessons under this G20 presidency of India for the world to know that how, with great care, the government, both the center and the state, and the monetary authority took care of the country and the public policy during this difficult phase. Thank you for your time and attention.
Namaskar. I'm Nishan Singhal, Group Head Legal and Compliance at Religare. It is a moment of great honor and privilege for me to introduce to all of you Param Pujya Param Adarniya Swami Chidanand Saraswati Ji. Swamiji, I welcome you on behalf of Religare family. Swamiji is the President and Spiritual Head of Parmat Niketan Ashram, a spiritual institution based in Rishikesh, India. He is also the founder and spiritual head of the Hindu Jain Temple in Pittsburgh. Swamiji is the founder or co-founder of several humanitarian and environmental organizations which serve a number of causes. Swamiji is the recipient of innumerable awards. To name a few, the World Peace Ambassador Award, Mahatma Gandhi Humanitarian Award, Hindu of the Year Award, Prominent Personality Award, Best Citizens of India Award, the Uttaranchal, sir, it will go on and on.
Thank you. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय शांति 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 Most revered Dr. Shri Murli Manohar Joshi ji, today our beautiful host Dr. Rashmi Saluja ji, and you all, I can go on and on, but there's no need to take everybody's name here because time is very short. First of all, let me remind you, this year's theme is Health for All. The United Nations have given this theme, Health for All. मुझे तो लगता है our rishis sarve santu niramaya. This theme is given today by the UN, but our rishis have given thousands of years ago, sarve santu niramaya, how all can be healthy. And they have given that what Dr. Murli Manohar Joshi ji has shared before me, beautifully as I heard. मुझे तो लगता है कि इस समय आ गया है, time has come, कि भारत के यशस्वी ऊर्जावान dynamic, daring and dashing Prime Minister who has given, when he went first time to the UN and brought India's vision to the UN, that is not only the United Nations, but how united creation can take care of it each other. And that's why he introduced yoga. ये भारत का उपहार है, this is the gift of India to the world from our rishis. कि विश्व योग दिवस और फिर विश्व मोटा अनाज दिवस, कोई सोचता भी है मोटा अनाज दिवस, मिलेट ईयर, ये जो दोनों चीजें हैं ये पूरे देश की, पूरे विश्व को उपहार हैं. नंबर 2, जब हम हेल्थ की बात सोचते हैं, डॉक्टर जोशी हैज ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन्ड, हम लोग होलिस्टिक अप्रोच लेके चलते हैं और उसमें सबसे पहले आता है आवर इंडिविजुअल हेल्थ एंड देन इज हेल्थ ऑफ द नेशन. There is a connection. And if individual is not healthy, our nation cannot be healthy. Our community cannot be healthy. इसलिए हमारे ऋषियों ने सबकी बात की, all.
When we were taking care of our patients during the COVID time, I'm very glad, Dr. Singh, that our armed forces, then our police forces, the BSF forces, how, and the banking services, you spoke so well, how these services have taken care of our nation and our frontline workers. मुझे तो बड़ी प्रसन्नता है ये शेयर करते हुए कि in our ashram, when this happened, I gave a call to all the people who were staying in our ashram doing yoga, performing yoga. It happened because when we had people from 100 countries in our ashram, it was an international yoga festival, just ended and people were there. And this COVID happened. All got stuck. But how to take care of everyone there from these many nations, not to be panicked, how to be precaution, and at the same time, how to stay healthy and happy and peace. Because that was the time where people were feeling, all the people, there was a time that people could have been in pieces. But rather than being in pieces, they were in peace. What was that? That kept them happy and healthy. Number two, when the COVID was a little bit over and flights started in July, we shared with people, now there is a time to go. I want to share with you. Some of them went and some of them said, oh my God, in our nation is so much COVID is there. We want to stay here. And so many people stayed in our ashram. Number one. But what was that which made them healthy and happy? I'll share to you in a nutshell because time is very short. Second thing is, in our ashram, there was a yoga classes were going on. We shut all the yoga classes because we needed yoga halls. We needed all the conferences hall. And we opened with the help of the government, COVID Care Center. 100-bedded COVID Care Center. If the need is there, we will have a 1,000-bedded COVID Care Center. But प्रभु की कृपा से ऐसा नहीं हुआ. उसी में काम किया. From the age of 282, I'm very proud to say that not even one casualty took place during the COVID time. What was that? Which made them healthy, happy. And only one person said, "Nahi, nahi, nahi, mujhe, I don't want to stay here. No, I want to go big hospital." And you know that one person only left, and that one person after 15 days, very sad to say, but he died. It does not mean that there was no facilities there, but how to create that atmosphere. We talked to the aim also. God forbid never happens again, but if it happens, we said what we tried. Let us have aims and us together that how in every hospital, everybody can be happy. First was lifestyle. In that lifestyle was food. Because food is very important. In our lifestyle, food makes your mood. And if junky food, junky mood. So first of all, we said eat right and eat light. What to eat and what not to eat. Second was, we took all the phones from everybody. Because everybody was very concerned. When they were watching, that next bed, the person is gone. Other room, that bed, person is gone. They were all very fearful, afraid. कि मेरा भी नंबर आएगा, my number is also there, now I am in the turn, I am next. So we took the phone away and we gave them few ways how to do yoga, how to meditate. And to me, meditation is the best medication for all agitations. And we tried and we were very happy to see the result. Number 3 is not only the healthy bodies. We have to keep, why the diseases come? Because we are out of alignment. That's why our bodies are inviting those diseases. The alignment of the bodies and alignment of the mind. Today people are online, but they're not aligned. Everybody is online, but their life is not aligned. And that's why we took those mobiles also, and then with meditation, with yoga, with food, then we said, okay, now how to think? How to think positively? have a faith in you, remove fear, have faith. First of all, we did not say remove fear. I said have faith in you, have faith in God, and have faith in each other. That's together we'll do it. Together we'll make it. We'll see it through. And we brought this faith into them, and fear was disappeared. Third, last, our Prime Minister of India, you have seen during that COVID time, amazing, तालियां बजवा दी, थालियां बजवा दी, दिए जला दिए, घंटियां बजवा दी, सब कुछ किया। और उसके बाद भी उन्होंने ना तो अर्थव्यवस्था को बर्बाद होने दिया, ना भारतीय संस्कृति को छिन्न भिन्न होने दिया, उसको भी साथ रखा, लोगों को बूस्ट करते रहे, जोड़ते रहे कि कैसे लोग जुड़े रहें, अपने फ्रंट लाइन जो वर्कर्स थे उनके लिए भी। लेकिन हमने क्या सोचा, व्हाट आई नोटिस दैट टाइम, दैट इम्यूनिटी वाज बीइंग बूस्टेड, बट कम्युनिटी वाज not together. The people who were there in the hospitals, even they left them, some, not all of them, some of them, and they never went to saw them. I said, let us have a mantra, immunity, community, and humanity. They all should go hand in hand. If immunity is saved and humanity is lost, we will never be together, we will never be saved. So these छोटे-छोटे मंदिर, small mantras, we brought them together. There are so much to share because I know that it is very late. First of all, I am so sorry because my flight was 3 hours late. I was there at the airport and I came. Because time is very short, I will say last. Religare. To me, Religare is not a name. Religare, in that time also, with the help of Gangaram Hospital, Ashwin Mehtaji, Religare, to me, is a really geared for how to care, how to share. Because Dr. Ashmi, I'm very happy. You have understood life is not to only have more. Having more is great, God bless you. But life is not only to have more, life is to share more, give more, and care more. And that's what you understood. And that's what you are doing, not only through this conference. This is a one-day conference. Morning to evening will be over. But the thought behind that, the care behind that, the way you are working, I'm very proud of you. Very proud of you. And keep it up. Not opening one hospital here, other hospital there, one hospital in Rishikesh. All of the team, our people are sitting in the front line. They're all working together. Very proud of you. And this is the way, to me, if humanity has to survive, the mantra of togetherness, the music of oneness, the music of allness, of inclusiveness has to be there. And that is our mantra. Sangachadvam, sangvadadvam, sangvo manansi jantam. We all have to work together. We all have to work together. We are all one family. I am glad this G20 has this theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. One earth, one family, and one future. And when we are talking about one future, we must maintain two more things. Our culture, which binds our roots together. Our culture and our nature. If we don't take care of our nature, we'll worship the Creator. If we forget the creation, believe me, we will not be together. So let us take care of our culture, nature, and our future. And that is very important. It means let us take care of our planet. If planet is not there, we will not be there. And very soon, within period of 10 years, we all are going to realize the water is the next gold. The water is the next oil. And to me, I'm not surprised, very soon, people all over the world will be buying stocks for water. Water stocks. Now we are buying gold stock. The time is coming, we'll buy water stocks. Gold will be there, but water will not be there. That's why we all have to plant more and more trees, save our water, stop single-use plastic from our parties and from our marriage anniversaries, birthday celebration, or any celebration. Let us have a green celebration. Let us take care of our rivers. Let us take care of our water bodies. Let us take care of our coming generation. If we want to save them, Please save water, save the planet. Thank you. God bless you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gurpreet Sidana, and I am Chief Operating Officer at Religare Broking. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce and welcome Dr. Upasana Arora, CEO and MD, Yashoda Super Specialty Hospital. She's an eminent person in healthcare terrain with exceptional leadership qualities and exemplary vision for inclusive healthcare facilities. Dr. Arora has significantly transformed the healthcare industry by facilitating safe and affordable healthcare systems. Dr. Arora is a member of NABL and chairperson of Indo-US Chamber of Commerce Healthcare Division. Let's give a big round of applause to Dr. Upasana Arora and honor her remarkable achievements in the healthcare industry.
Good evening, everyone. Namaskar. Happy World Health Day. We are celebrating here. So first of all, I would like to thank Rashmi, who is a very good friend of mine, and she has given me this opportunity that I am speaking in front of Adarni Murli Manohar Joshi ji, Swami ji, and other dignitaries. It's actually very, very great honor and privilege for me that I am sharing dais with those who are stalwart, who are gem of India. But she has given me responsibility to talk about role of private healthcare at the time of COVID and post-COVID. So I would like to tell that government has done a wonderful job when all countries were thinking about what will happen to India, which is thickly populated country, and where they think that people are not well educated also. So it will be very difficult that how they will prevent themselves from this deadly disease. But we have proved to everybody that we can do it. And private healthcare has worked as an extended arms of government. If you see all the hospital, they have converted themselves into a COVID hospital. We have stopped all surgeries and different things, just focused on COVID and our patients. Because I am running Yashoda Hospital, so in my hospital, what we were doing, that we were not leaving our patient alone. They were not feeling lonely, our staff was not scared. They were going to the patient, even our physiotherapists were giving them physiotherapy. That time when even patients, attendants and relatives were not ready to touch them, we were there for all their help. So I can say that India is rising in healthcare in a very big way. Luckily, I am part of G20 healthcare working group. So I have seen that other countries are also looking at India for medical value travel because we are providing care. Even post-COVID also, everybody is doing some pranayam, some yoga. And everybody knows that healing is very, very important post-surgeries. So this yoga, pranayam, Ayurveda, Unani, homeopathy, we are providing holistic healing. So I know that India is going to be Vishwaguru. And if person like Rashmi Saluja is there, who is a real example of women empowerment, She is running this Religare, not only I am part of his CSR board. I can say that the way she is doing things, our economy is growing so well. So after some time, we are going to, make our marks everywhere in the world. With these words, I will not take much time. I must say that we were the Vishwaguru and we are going to be Vishwaguru, and everybody will look at us because we have done so well for vaccination. We have the most vaccinated country now, and our digitization, our certificate is digitized. Even US could not do that well, which we have done, and our outcomes are also very good. So with these words, I would like to tell that after COVID, what happened, that every hospital is trying to make new hospitals, like Yashoda is coming up with 1200 bedded hospital. With the architecture of that kind of, if another problem, another disease will come, we are totally prepared to face all difficulties in kind of any pandemics. So with these words, thank you so much. And again, my heartfelt thanks to you, Rashmi. Thanks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Manish Dodeja, and I'm part of Care Health Insurance. It is indeed a great privilege to introduce our next speaker, a luminary in the healthcare domain for over 4 decades, and in his current role as Chairman, Board of Management of Sir Gangaram Hospital. Dr. Ajay Swaroop has played a pivotal role in building a world-class healthcare institution. Under his able guidance and leadership, the hospital has come to be the epitome of quality service delivery with transparency and ethics. His relentless pursuit of giving access to quality healthcare to the underprivileged is very well acknowledged. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Ajay Swaroop.
Aditya Murli Manohar Joshi ji, eminent speakers before me, invited diplomats and ambassadors from various countries, members of the press, and our distinguished speaker from Sweden, Dr. Martin Schellin, ladies and gentlemen. The world is passing through one of the biggest calamity of the century, the COVID pandemic. It has brought untold miseries across the globe. I, as a practicing doctor, an ENT specialist, and the chairman of Sir Gangaram Hospital, have seen the scenario at very close quarters. I have been involved in the care of the sick and very sick COVID patients, as well as the back-end planning of strategy development, procurement, disbursement of safety gear, and above all, ladies and gentlemen, motivating my tired force of doctors, nurses, and other staff. Sir Gangaram Hospital was actively involved in COVID care from day one. And at one given point of time, we had 450 sick COVID patients admitted with us. I have seen the heroic work done by our doctors, nurses, technicians, and they have been rightly called, designated as COVID heroes. However, ladies and gentlemen, today I want to highlight people who have contributed immensely in the fight against COVID. These people who have mattered in our day-to-day life during the struggles. They have not been in the limelight which they deserve, and I call them the unsung COVID heroes. A lot has already been said about the police force, but I just want the gathering here to imagine when we were staying in our houses, locked in, we were working from home, these brave people were toiling to keep the system working, protecting your property, preventing law and order situations, as well as spreading awareness of the do's and don'ts of COVID. They have prevented law and order breakdown and total chaos. Remember the small grocery shop owner of your locality. They have diligently stocked daily usage essentials for a vast country like ours. There was no panic buying, there was no hoarding. Once people realized that these brave and enterprising people are stocking and distributing essentials in adequate quantities. Think about the delivery agents delivering groceries, food, MacBooks, and whatever you desired at your doorstep. They have risked their lives every day of the pandemic, have fallen sick, but risen to continue. They are the unsung heroes. Ladies and gentlemen, please picture the unknown tailor and a garment factory worker sitting in a factory at Noida, stitching PPE, masks by the thousands for our frontline workers. Ambulances running up and down, hearse vans transporting the unfortunate. Spare a thought for the drivers who have risked their lives at every trip. For 2 long years, our children have been deprived the benefit of class education. But school teachers, apart from managing their own lives, have worked diligently to prepare curriculum of online classes, thereby keeping the students in contact with continued education. Communication for people of this country across mountains, rivers, and forests has been maintained by the brave postal workers. They have helped in maintaining sanity and togetherness with loved ones. And there are hundreds of such unsung heroes. Extraordinary women and men have risen to the occasion to serve their community. These names are not necessarily recognizable, but the action of these heroes have without a shadow of doubt made the world safe and a better place. This is my humble tribute to the COVID unsung heroes. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Pankaj Gupta, CFO at Care Health Insurance. I take this opportunity to introduce our next speaker, a doyen in the field of molecular medicine and surgery. Dr. Martin Schelling has authored over 350 scientific papers and over 20 public debate articles relating to society, healthcare, and science. He is board member of Sweden's largest healthcare provider, SLSO and Society Zero, as well as chairman of the board of the Swedish Mental Health Fund. Dr. Schelling is presently professor of medical genetics at the Center for Molecular Medicine at Karolinska Institute and Karolinska University Hospital. He has an MD and a PhD degree from Karolinska Institute and is a Fulbright scholar as well as an EMBO postdoctoral fellow at MIT. Dr. Schelling has flown all the way from Sweden, and ladies and gentlemen, request you to welcome Dr. Schelling.
Thank you very much. So, it's a wonderful honor to be here. I love India. I have been here for about 10 times, and I find I get so well and warmed welcome every time. It's a fantastic country, and you should be so proud of this unique, fantastic country. Now, see if we get this one, yeah. So, yes, as you can see, I can't even spell, so it says, there, April there, yeah. But sorry for that. I'm going to try to address today a few key questions in the post-pandemic era. And most importantly, how can we be better prepared for the next pandemic? Because this was not the first one, and it will not be the last one. What can we learn about the mechanisms in COVID? Can we be better prepared if we understand what really happened on a medical level? And can we use this innovation? You've seen in several of the lectures today that in the armed forces, in the police, etc., they changed their behavior. There was a lot of innovative thinking. Can we have the same innovative thinking in the society as a whole and in medicine to be better prepared for the next step? And what can significantly India contribute in this post-pandemic world? So this picture depicts 6 different countries, among them Sweden, where I come from, and India, and you also see the whole world. It depicts how many people died per 100,000 individuals per day. And as you can see, the countries look really the same. Maybe with the exception of China, but there could be some underreporting in that particular country, which we don't have the details maybe. But the countries looked the same. The United States had high mortality numbers. India had high. Sweden had relatively high. My point here is that, my point is that in the world, there was maybe 0.5% of people that passed away. You heard it from the police forces. It was 80 in 1800, that's about 0.5%. It's extremely sad, very tragic, but it is a low number. So please be considerate that in previous pandemics, these numbers have been higher, although it was 100 years ago or more, the numbers were higher. So we cannot expect that COVID-19, the next pandemic, will be as light as this one. And I say this with all respect to how hard it has been, and we heard all the efforts that has been done. This is certainly no way of putting that down. It was fantastic in many countries, the heroic efforts. But the point is, it could get very much worse next time. This was still pretty low numbers. I will start by introducing some of the mechanisms that we have recently published in one publication in one of the Nature journals, where we look at what happens in the brain, because it's a problem for many individuals that post-COVID, they lack focus, they have a haze, they lack cognitive abilities, and we don't really know why. It's true in adults as well as in children that we see this reduction in cognitive ability, and it's been well documented in many scientific articles. What we do is we construct mini brains in a dish. I'm not going to bore you with the details. The point is that we reprogram human cells, make them into mini brains that reconstituted with all the elements of a normal brain, and then we infect this brain with live COVID virus. And it looks like this, and what happens to the very far right is that you see that
there is a growth of number of viruses that happen in this little mini brain. And the point is in the next slide, which shows to the very far right, you see nerve cells that lose their connections. So what we described for the first time is that there is an activation of the cleaning cells of the brain, so-called microglia, and that results in loss of connectivity between the nerve cells. When you lose connectivity between the nerve cells, you also lose cognitive ability. And that is probably the reason why this is happening. A similar mechanism is indeed seen in other diseases like schizophrenia or chronic psychotic disorders. We think that the mechanism that we observe here is not unique to COVID. It exists in other viruses that infect the brain, and we see similar processes in schizophrenia and Alzheimer's. So it becomes tremendously important to mitigate this loss of connectivity in the brain if you want to avoid long-term consequences of a pandemic like this. We have looked in clinical materials, in this case from the UK Biobank, and without going into details, this image here shows you that this is in fact going on in not only in our microbrains in the dish, but in live human beings as well. So similar to how we developed strategies for reducing the blood clotting and reducing the inflammation in the body because it was too much inflammation, too much response to the COVID virus that was causing the real problems. It was never the COVID virus that was causing the problems, it was your own body's reaction. If you have too strong immune system was the big problem. The cancer patients, the immunosuppressed patients had less problems, in fact. So it was a problem of overactivity. Similarly, we need to have drugs that inhibit this pruning process, these cleaning cells, such that we do not lose the connections in the brain. And there are such drugs available, but they were never used in COVID. We didn't have this knowledge. We didn't understand what was going on. I think one take-home message from this disease, COVID-19, is in fact that we need sort of catastrophe centers. We need centers, bodies of knowledge in academia and in society that take up the information that is important for meeting the next pandemic with knowledge base. So we need to know what's going on, and that, I think, will be extremely important. Okay, so I'm going to skip, in the interest of time. I've asked to cut my lecture down a little bit because the evening is late and we are all waiting for the next big happenings. So I'm not going to talk really much about. We have some strategies at the Karolinska that I'd be glad to discuss with you during the following events of the evening. If you are interested in how we have been thinking about innovation strategies to develop better for the future. But in the interest of time, I'm actually going to skip those slides and we are going to move on to something where I think India can have a huge contribution. And it's a little bit sad to skip this because it's nice information. But now we come to the question, how can innovation drive safety and reduce transmission? And how can India position itself in this part? And that's the later parts of my talk. One problem is communication barriers. India alone has 300 languages. Languages are abundant all over the planet, and in medical care, sometimes you need interpreters to go and explain to the patient, between the doctor and the patient and the nurses. And that presents a problem in a pandemic, because that is a person that moves from room to room to room and is able to spread disease, for example. So these communication barriers can then be overcome by digital strategies instead. And this is depicted in this example, which is a company I was part of funding about 5 years ago, called Care to Translate. And the company is aiming to reduce misdiagnosis, prolonged hospital stays, malpractice, complications, and increased costs. So it's something that we will have use for every day of the week, and indeed especially during a pandemic. You know the journey of a patient through a hospital. You've heard already about the heroic efforts today. In fact, every step of this journey, you need interpreters for the patient who does not speak the same language as the healthcare professionals. So this was developed like a digital medical interpreter to facilitate this process. And it's now, this one is just getting started, but it's already being used in 200 countries, including India. And it has already produced about 6 million translations and is growing exponentially as a medical tool, which is global in nature. And my argument here is that India can be part of developing this type of medical tools that facilitate a point of care situation where you can treat with telemedicine, you can monitor patients at a distance, you can work with digital translation tools to avoid too much proximity in those situations where you want to avoid it. I also think this is the future of medicine in a way, because medicine is becoming very costly, and the concept of the digital hospital will be a concept for the future. As you can see, in Asia, for example, there's a huge, there are many languages spoken and a huge lack of interpreters. So just the fact that there aren't interpreters makes the whole situation worse. Yeah, here's the team that created this company, with a little bit younger version of me to the very far right. And we are already selling these to healthcare corporations across the globe. But if you are a private individual and you want to use it, it is virtually free. It costs 1 cup of coffee per month to use it. So you can use it as a private individual, or you can use it as a patient, because there's a patient version of it also. And this is our philanthropic arm, where we reach out and try to make people just use it. But of course, we want the professional organizations to incorporate this into our building. And you can see we have won many prizes for this innovation. Even NASDAQ to the far right there made an honorary mention of this Care to Translate during the pandemic, because it was valued as such an important tool in the US market and many other places during the pandemic. That's why I bring it up today. Briefly about hospital-associated infections. That's also something that is a big concern in India and in many other countries. And of course, hospitals are places where infections tend to spread for natural reasons. Many people are collected there with maybe a weakened immune system, and they are carrying various infectious agents. However, there are now digital tools that facilitate in such of triple helix innovation projects to curb these kind of infections by much more diligent monitoring. This is a project that's been going on at the Karolinska. Pontus Now Clear is a central person, and it's about, I would say, $20 million has already been poured into the project by various innovation agencies, and it's now being exported globally to different countries to facilitate this type of monitoring. We skip this and just make a point that in the Stockholm region, this is already being used effectively to monitor healthcare associated infections. I think it's again an example, it's just one example of a digital tool that is used to facilitate medicine of tomorrow. And my point is that India, with its very strong force of IT people, can be a major contributor in developing tomorrow's digital tools. I am convinced that this is the major market of tomorrow in medicine. Yeah, one word about internationalization. Innovation rarely happens on your own. It happens in collaboration. And it happens when you work together in big teams. Mayo Clinic is ranked #1 among healthcare facilities in the world, and we have a 25-year history of working with Mayo Clinic at the Karolinska, and in fact, for many of those years, I was heading this effort. So I've spent, was afforded, and we had much better innovations coming out of the collaboration. So it's really very successful. And at the bottom there, I'm asking myself whether there shouldn't be Karolinska India corporations, which sadly is not formalized today, but could be, of course. So with these examples, I just want to note a couple of Swedish examples. Here is the top 10 innovative economies of the world. And you see Switzerland at the very top, but #2 is Sweden, before United States and United Kingdom and Korea, etc. So I think that part of this comes from the very strong medical establishment and the innovative capability within medicine, where we are clearly #1 at this point. So the last part is mentioning of the fact that you are sitting on a gold mine in India. There is a long tradition of holistic health in India. I am certainly not an expert, but for the past 10 years, I've been an advisor to a center in Chennai called the Medical Park, or Harley Street Medical Park, where an Indian medical doctor has been contributing back. He's operating in London at Harley Street, hence the name, but he is quite famous there, has written many books, and he now wanted to contribute back to India and integrate holistic medicine with modern state-of-the-art to promote healthy aging, which is really at the bottom of this. And well, you can see there are lists of things you can do here, but I think I will show you at the very bottom, you have the holistic Indian traditional medical practices, integrating with diet and nutrition, of course, integrating with exercise, integrating with hormone therapy, integrating, and here I come into the picture because I'm sort of at the very narrow, or you could say the top of the pyramid, with the nutraceuticals, with the aesthetic medicine and the stem cell therapy and genomics, which is my area of expertise. So we're a group of international advisors from many countries in the world that come together to support Jaya Prakash in this endeavor in India, and we've been doing so for over 10 years. So it's a long-term endeavor. This is not born quickly, but I think it's super important to drive home the message that something that has survived for thousands of years will contain a lot of important knowledge and wisdom that can be utilized together with Western medicine. And some of our more talented earlier speakers already made this point very eloquently. I make it from a purely medical or scientific point, but we make the same message coming from two directions. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. The world had witnessed many hardships during the COVID pandemic, but the world has also come together to battle it and emerge victorious. Of the many organizations who contributed tremendously towards helping the community at large during this tough phase, our esteemed jury, after many rounds of discussions and deliberations, have identified 3 elite organizations. Their work has been exemplary and shines out. We feel privileged and honored to felicitate these distinguished organizations, and the name are the Indian Army, Amrita Hospital and Research Center, Sadguru Netra Chikitsalaya, Sadguru Seva Sangh. May I now request our honorable guest, Dr. Mulli Manohar Joshi ji, Swami ji, Lieutenant General P.G.K. Menon, Dr. Rashmi Saluja, Dr. Ajay Swaroop, and Dr. Ashwini Mehta to please come on the stage for the felicitation ceremony. I request Lieutenant General Daljit Singh and General Arindam Chatterjee to please come forward and receive our token of gratitude on behalf of the Indian Army. Sir, please. May I now request Mr. Satyanand Mishra ji to please come forward and receive our token of gratitude on behalf of Amrita Hospital and Research Center. May I now request Dr. Elish Jain to please come forward and receive our token of gratitude on behalf of Sadguru Netra Chikitsalaya, Sadguru Seva Trust. Thank you all. Before ending this glorious evening, may I request Dr. Gayatri S. to please come forward for the Vande Mataram. May I request everyone to please stand up?
Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam Sufalam, Malayaj Sheetalam, Sasya Shamalam Mataram, Vande Mataram, Shubhra Josna पुलकितयामिनीं पुल्लकुसुमितद्रुमदलशोभिनीं सुहासिनीं सुमधुरभाषिणीं सुखदां वरदां मातरं वन्दे मातरम् कोटि कोटि कंठ कल कल निनाद कराले कोटि कोटि भुजैर्धृत खर करवाले अबला के नो माये तो बले बहुबलधारिणीं नमामि तरिणीं रिपुदलवारिणीं मातरं वन्दे मातरम् तुमी विद्या तुमी धर्मा तुमी हृदि तुमी मर्मा त्वं हि प्राण शरीरे बाहुते तुमी मा शक्ति हृदये तुमी मा भक्ति तोमारे प्रतिमा गड़ी मंदिरे मंदिरे वन्दे मातरम् त्वं हि दुर्गा दश प्रहरणधारिणि कमला कमलदला विहारिणी वाणी विद्यादायिनी नमामि त्वां नमामि कमलाम् अमलामतुलां सुजलां सुफलां मातरं श्यामलां सरलां सुष्मितां भूषितां धरणीं भरणीं मातरं वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरं मा 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 वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरं भारत माता की जय थैंक यू
Dear all, thank you for coming and joining us and making this evening a successful evening. May I now request all of you to please join us for the dinner.